Hello, Wellness Pros, and welcome back to our Wellness Pro podcast. I'm here with Lauren Schoenfeld, and her website is activecoreconsulting.com. And Lauren works a lot with gym owners in the fitness industry. She has a background in finance and as a growth strategist with 10 years in the fitness, hospitality, and real estate industries, which is cool. We have so much overlap in background, I think, and all that. And you help launch and scale new business initiatives. So when you started with this venture that you have with Active Core Consulting, you're working mostly, from what I understand, with fitness professionals.
Yep, we mainly work with brick and mortar fitness studio owners. We like to start with them between the 1 and 5 studio portfolio and really help them set strong foundations in their finance, their sales, and their operations so we can get the owner out of the operator seat into his or her CEO seat and create repeatable systems. So when you want to grow your portfolio, it's just a rinse and repeat effort because the studios that you already have are solid and running on a good system.
People who just want one, like just are trying to grow their one location, their one brick and mortar, compared to like people that are doing like really wanting to scale. And how do people differentiate like how big they want to go and what are some of the lifestyle trade-offs in that?
Yeah, great question. The way that we work with clients, our foundations are going to more or less be very similar in that first 6 to 12 months of working with a new client. Because whether you want to optimize your revenue and your profit in your one studio, or you want to grow to a 10, 20, 30 portfolio business, when we're in the beginning, it's all the same. We need to get your finances in order. We need to create a business plan. We need to tighten up your operations, making sure you have structure around your people, your systems, and everybody is working in concert together. So whether you just want to have one location, which is a beautiful goal as well, or you want to grow bigger, that initial 6 to 12 months with us is going to more or less look the same. Now, there's always nuances if you're getting ready for a round of fundraising or we have a couple locations in the pipeline, things might shift a little bit in terms of priority and kind of like cadence on how fast you want to move. But we are really here to help any of those studio owners. And I loved your question about what lifestyle shifts happen. Um, again, whether you're optimizing your 1 or 2 locations or growing to 5, 10, 15, the first thing we have to do from an owner standpoint is getting you out of the operator seat and we say into your CEO seat. So what that means is a lot of times studio owners will come to us and they're teaching half the classes on the schedule and they're doing the admin and they might be sweeping the floors and just doing whatever they can to help the studio because either maybe they don't have the funding to hire all these people or there isn't systems in place or they want to be super helpful and they want their team to see that they're on the ground doing this with them. And while I really respect the intention of that, doing those tasks are not going to help your business grow in a sustainable way without you. So I would really think through if you're somebody that's trying to decide is like, where do you want your time, your free time and attention to go? If you want to just build a really profitable studio that supports you and your family. So maybe you have a couple kids and you want to make sure you go to their soccer games and go to all the school plays. Like that's beautiful. So let's get you out of the operator seat. And so you're only working on higher level tasks. You are the visionary of the business. So then you have all this free time to spend with your family. And I love that. I think that's a beautiful goal. If you are somebody that really has the growth mind and you want to open multiple locations, whether that's just 3 or 4 locations or you have big goals, 15 or 20, it really just depends how much time and energy you want to spend growing your business. So when you're in that CEO visionary role, your free time, you have to think of it, do I want to spend my more free time for myself, my family, or do I want to spend some of that free time in thinking through how to open more locations and what is that growth trajectory, what is that fundraising trajectory to get you there. And there's no right or wrong answer. And we support studio owners who want our tagline is live life on your terms. And if your terms are you want to go to all your kids' soccer games, amazing, let's make that happen. If living life on your terms means you want to grow to 5, 10 locations so you can have a big payout one day and make the multiple millions so then you can have free time at the exit of your business, that's also beautiful. So we really encourage owners to think about what their goals are for the next 3, 5, 10 years, and then we can help them reverse engineer what that plan looks like.
I just from my work in the last few decades, it's like I've mostly met the brick and mortar, like single to maybe two studio owners who really aren't trying to grow. Like they got into it as a technician who decided to run their own thing to have a better experience in community. And I find because both yoga teachers and gym owners, it's a very low bar to entry. It's like you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to go through
Right.
10 years of school. That there's a lot of failure in the industry, right? There's a lot of people that it's easy to get into, it's easier to start. There's a lot of usually like energy and passion in the beginning, and then there's a often after the grind, or it's like a hobby business, especially in yoga, where we run into like very much hobby businesses that are often supported by a partner or by benefactors or something like that. There's like a real missing skill set in terms of like what do the finances actually need to be so that I mean, yeah, it sounds great going to all my kids' soccer games, but if I'm not teaching or if I'm not doing the thing, I have to pay someone else. I don't have the money to do that. So how do you help them in the transition?
Oh, such a good question. And that really brings into our upcoming group coaching program that we have. It's called Finance and Flow. And so we really take the core tenets that we teach our clients in the finance and and operations and bring it into a really accessible group program. So we can teach you what are these foundations that you need to have
Yeah, why don't
so
you just
you
go
can.
through them?
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So the first thing we'll do is there's always a flow aspect to what we do in business. So I kind of sprinkle in some woo woo and spirituality in it, not because that's what's trending, but like what I've seen in myself and our studio owners, that I can give you all the strategy in the world on how to operate your business. But if you have any subconscious limiting beliefs about your pricing or about, oh, I can't pay an instructor to teach my class, so I have to teach all of the classes. Like all of these decisions that we're making in our business are stemming from some sort of aware or unaware subconscious belief about ourselves and our business, usually stemming from money blocks or money stories that we learned from our childhood, from society, from our caregivers. And so a lot of the times we see studio owners getting stuck because of the mindset work. So we tackle that on head first in the first week of the program. I bring in my nervous system an energy coach that a couple of our other team members also use, who have really helped me step into like what is CEO energy and what is that flow of being a CEO. So how do we have grounded, boundaried energy so we're not people pleasing and we're not just doing what everybody else wants to do because it's best for them. Like what is best for you and your business, and how can we create a business around those tenets. So we tackle the mindset work first so we can kind of get to a more grounded level state. And then we go into what I call owner's pay roadmap. So in order to identify how much money you need to live your most ideal life, we have to map it out. Is it 5K a month? Is it 8K a month? And a lot of the times we hear owners say, oh, I'll just pay myself whatever's left over at the end of the month. And while I can understand the logic behind it, we want to pay our people, make sure our rent is paid, make sure marketing and everything else is running smoothly. I like to argue that you, the studio owner, the CEO, is the most important role in the business. And if the business is not set up to pay you, then we're just working for a nonprofit. Which, if that's your goal, that's totally fine. Maybe you have some other sources of income, but a lot of the people that we work with are trying to plan for their kids to go to college, or they want to be able to take their family on a really nice vacation each year, or they want to open multiple studios, they want to buy a house. And so just getting really clear on what your goals are, it just sets the tone for what you need to achieve in your business. And then that helps you with the energy of making clear, smart decisions rooted in your profit, rooted in what you need to make as a studio owner.
And as far as that profit, right? Because like obviously they'd pay themselves more money if there's more money left at the end of the month. So there's usually a big block, right? With like, how do I, how do I make more money? Like the way we work with people at Wellness Pro Academy is we exclusively work with high ticket upsells in clubs, like annual recurring membership clubs. And our whole business is the business of helping wellness pros do that, whether they're online or offline, whether they're in a, like in a physical location, brick and mortar, and that can be a gym, that can be a yoga studio, that can be a retreat center, or whether they're mostly online or hybrid, where they're doing like retreats, workshops, classrooms, and then also having an online component. And what I notice with that is like wrapping their mind around the offer, around exactly like how do they get reliable results that are worth investing in? Like how do they design an offer that has reliable results that are worth investing in? And then how do they ensure that their program is going to work, that their club or their membership is actually going to work, that they'll create the right culture, they'll have the right curriculum, they'll have the right, coaching that actually gets members to results. That in that phase, that's often like a big stretch, for them mentally to even like start to even understand that the way to make more money, the way to become more profitable is to have a higher value offer, and then to be able to sell that offer. And then once they have the sales skills, to be able to get leads to sell to offer that offer. And then what they're actually good at usually is like delivering on the offer. But there's a lot of missing skill sets before that. And I'm wondering if you kind of landed, it looks like from your website, you've sort of landed in the same place where it's like they need a high ticket offer to unlock profit. And I'm just curious, like, what have I said that you're like, oh yeah, we work, more or less with a similar process or a different process?
Yeah, what I like to coach is, I think the paid in fulls are a wonderful offer, and we like to use those in promotionality months. So there is some sort of limited offer, not like scarcity around it, but just if we found if the paid in fulls live evergreen all year. Sometimes it's a slow trickle to get them in, but if we can use the paid in fulls at really specific moments in the year, maybe it's your anniversary sale, maybe it's your Black Friday sale. Black Friday especially, people are primed and ready to spend money. So we have seen a lot of success with dropping a paid in full offer specifically for Black Friday. And I love the paid in fulls from that reason alone, because it gives you a big influx of cash. So we'll also use that strategy if a client
I think we're talking about two different things. So your paid in full is like join our gym for the year, or have an unlimited access pass to our studio for the year. Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's one way that we coach it. I apologize. I thought that's what you were referring to.
We don't know, it's different, but I think that's where most gyms and studios are, right? When they're thinking of like, oh, I do have an annual membership, and it's more or less like a pass to come to my gym or to my studio for the year, and to be able to drop into any of the classes. And maybe there's a few other
perks. Yep.
Yeah.
What we
do more of is on a club side. Like, how do you actually have a much, it's almost like a wellness mastermind group within that is a higher value add than the all access pass.
Yep. So maybe you're adding some like nutrition and wellness component to it.
Yeah, it operates much more like a mastermind group. And so it depends on the expertise of the wellness pro of their studio or their gym or their facility. Some of them are, again, like retreat centers. So it depends on like what is the biggest value add, like what is the biggest end result where their skill set is intersecting their clientele, where there's just these gaps. So for yoga studios, for example, like the way yoga was traditionally taught was you would serve for a few years and like adapt to the culture and the lifestyle of the of the teacher, like of the guru, and attenuate your nervous system and get your like diet and your body in a detox state in order to then do yoga. But like in modern yoga, it's like you just show up and you might be 40
Right.
pounds overweight and you might be drinking 2 glasses of wine after you go to yoga class and you might be staying up late watching Netflix. And then it's like,
Right.
wow, does yoga work? Well, it's like, yoga kind of works, but not really, because there's so much in modern culture that is working against the yoga working. So how do we, again, in the yoga studio example, like how do we bring in, like what are the people coming into us for? What do they actually want to get in terms of their end results? Like what are their big future vision of who they could be in their body? And that's actually, it's driving them to come to class. And then how do we actually take them on a journey to get there that, yes, will include the yoga on the mat, but will also probably include quite a bit of coaching and diet and lifestyle and
Yep.
yoga off the mat, and help them bond with other people that are already on a growth path. So there's a community engaged, committed component to this higher ticket. And we find like that's what really unlocks profit, right? Because now instead of just trading against other studios on the marketplace, are actually able to have like an upsell, which is why it requires sales skills, et cetera.
Yep. Yep. I really appreciate that, because I think a lot of what studio owners come into this business to is to create community and help change people's lives. So
Yeah.
how can you create an offer that sets you apart from the Legree studio down the street or another yoga studio? Like, what are you doing to create that deeper sense of community and that deeper resonance and retention from your members to be loyal to your business? Yeah, that's really awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I'm curious. Are you guys doing that? Is that like part of what you? And I'm curious of like of how.
Yeah, we have some clients where we've gone down that path because they're really focused on the nutrition
Mm,
standpoint. So we've created a bigger offer that includes the group fitness and the nutrition
mm,
aspect of
mm-hmm,
it, and really leaning into, you're spending an hour 3 or 4 times a week in the studio working your body, but like, what are you doing all the other hours
mm-hmm,
of the day? And like what you're doing all the other hours of the day is really what's going to help drive the physical and emotional results that you want. And so having a nutrition coach, we have found in these particular studios to work really well because it gives a very holistic, well-rounded package offer. And then we, can layer in different supplement packages
mm-hmm,
based on what they need for like their macros. And becomes very customized based on the individual and what they need.
mm-hmm.
And then, it changes every couple months. So having that really high touch nutrition coach, it really is like a nutrition coach, a mindset coach, almost becomes like a life coach, for lack of better words,
Mm-hmm.
and so
And
having
those
that
are
support.
usually when you've done this in active core consulting, then those are different people. The mindset coach, the fitness coach, the gym owner.
Oh,
Those are
at this
different
particular studio
people.
that I'm thinking of, it's one person. So this
Mm-hmm. Okay.
nutrition coach um, just ends up kind of turning into mindset, because just like how we teach
Mm-hmm.
in finance and flow, if you don't have a clear mindset, then it's going to be very hard to implement these strategies because your nervous system is going to be dysregulated. So I think it's similar on the nutrition side. Like, you can give somebody a perfect nutrition plan and they're not going to follow it. So it's like really digging into like, why aren't we following it? What are the blocks? Is it a mental block? Is there something in their schedule that's not allowing them to set themselves up for success? So
Mm-hmm.
I think in wellness, if we don't have the mindset component in our coaching, it's a big opportunity area to really dial that in, because there's so much mental chatter that comes with being a studio owner or trying to change your body, trying to change your life and your habits.
Yeah. And then is that person, so in that upsell or that higher ticket offer is mostly one-on-one?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And this particular studio also does a group element a couple times a year as well, just to make it more accessible, with then the conversion to the one-on-one after. And we've seen a lot of success with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so that's probably one of the bigger differences between, and that's what's kind of fun I find with talking with other wellness pros who are helping various subsectors in the industry. And so in that case, like you're representing to us, like the people helping with gym ownership and studio ownership.
Yeah.
Whereas like
But
what
I
we
think
do is
oh, go ahead.
almost entirely based on like how do you move a group of people to much bigger end results based on the leverage within the community and the relationships, these like lateral relationships that people are building in growth groups together. And it is a totally different skill set for the gym owner, studio owner, or the wellness pro, because they often are more of like used to like a consulting
Hmm.
expertise, and activating the dynamicism of a club or a group is it's a different skill set.
Yeah.
That's a cool just like, I love seeing how where we intersect and overlap is similar but also is different. And it sounds like what we've both tuned into is that like to unlock profit you need to be able to sell higher ticket, and that's what we both have in common here. What
Yeah.
you're describing in our world is more of like the VIP offer within a club, where
Mm.
there's more maybe one-on-one access. Although some VIP clubs, like my VIP club, it's still all group. It's just a much more select targeted group, and they're benefited by the network that's within that group
Yeah.
itself. So yeah, so many ways to skin the cat. Anything else on the upsell? Like what price points are you teaching your gym owners and studio owners to sell at in order to unlock like higher level of profit?
Yeah, good question. When we think about what is going to unlock a higher level of profit and what is going to sustain the business and build your emergency savings and be able to pay you your owner's pay, what we really focus on is monthly reoccurring revenue. So that could come from the high ticket offer that you and your business really support clients with. And MRR is what we call it, can come in various forms. So it's your monthly reoccurring memberships. It could be your paid in full memberships, your high ticket offers. With the click to cancel transition that happened in some states, but not others, we made a couple big decisions to help our studio owners leverage a more retention strategy because it is so easy to cancel a membership now. We used to implement a system where they had to answer some questions, and we had a whole follow-up process to try and cross sell or downsell them so we didn't lose that on the member. But now that that process has been eliminated, we're really implementing 6 and 12 month commitment memberships, not from a paid in full standpoint, still from a paid monthly, but their commitment period is that 6 or 12 months. So that really has been helping with retention. And also for our studio owners that are looking to grow their portfolios, one day have some sort of PE or investor money, being able to show that you have a certain portion of your monthly recurring revenue that are on longer term contracts is such an advantage and a sales point for your business versus everybody being on just 30-day cancellation notices. And I would imagine breaking up that MRR between, okay, we have 15% of people on a 6 month commitment, we have 10% people on a 12-month commitment. Maybe 20% of our MRR is comprised of these higher level masterminds. And then that really increases the LTV of these clients with these higher level groups. So it's, if you're the studio owner that is looking for that investor PE money and looking for that growth, these tactics to increase MRR, LTV, and retention are going to be so key in marketing your business amongst all the other fitness studios that are out there that are also have the same growth goal. So how can we dial in some very specific metrics that are really key for these investors that they love to see? To not only will you stand apart because the way that you hold in the vision in your community, I would imagine, is different than the studio next door. So we can back it up with kind of like the softer communal aspect of your business, but also let's back it up with some hard facts and data.
So for people that are selling, like what are you seeing in terms of how much people are able to sell for versus their annual recurring, well, yeah, just their like top line, like gross revenue minus expenses, and then like what are they? And let's just use the example of like the 1 to 5 studio range, or like the
Hmm.
1 to 3, like on the smaller side, because I think that will just be more relevant to our audience.
Yeah, sure. So when we look at pricing, I don't love giving like blanket pricing because somebody who's in New York City in a tier one market versus somebody in a tier 3 or 4 market in the suburbs are going to have a completely different business model.
Yeah.
But what is consistent, no matter where you are, what market you're in, what modality you're in, is what we like to look at the margins and the percentages. So when we're looking at your business and looking at the initial opportunity areas that you have, we'll look at how much payroll are you paying as a percentage of revenue? How much marketing are you spending as a percentage of revenue? What is your overall EBITDA or operating profit margin? And those are some like really basic metrics that I love to look at to see where the studio is at. And ideally, we want to see that EBITDA studio operating profit margin 20% to 40%. For my studio owners that want to get that PE investor money, we work really hard with them to get that to 40%, to be really attractive to these outside investors. But if we're looking at to see, okay, where is the pricing and the revenue as compared to the expenses that we're seeing, and if your payroll is above 30%, that's, I wouldn't say a red flag by any means. It's just okay, there's something going on here where we're spending more than 30% of our revenue on payroll. There's an opportunity area here to optimize. So what does that optimization look like? We'll dive into how much you're paying everybody. What are the incentives? What's the commission? What's the bonus structure look like? What is the structure of your team? And what is everybody doing? Are we really maximizing the ROI of everybody in your studio? And something that I was talking about this morning with a client, and they were saying, oh man, I made the wrong hire for the studio manager. And then we really dug into why she thought that was the case. And where we came at is this person was hired over a year ago. And over a year ago, this was the best decision for the business at the time. But now, every year, we have to do this analysis in our business. Do we have the right people, the right structure, and the right systems? And when we looked at it a year later from this hire, we realized the business has grown so much and evolved so much in the past year that this person is no longer the best support system for the studio manager role. And there's nothing wrong with that. It actually means that you've up-leveled and you have major growth. I think that's a win. So it's like, okay, great. Now, what do we need in a studio manager and how can we find that right person? Because with the right person, with the right compensation structure, she or he will help grow that studio even more. So we can bring, maybe payroll was like 35 or 40% of your revenue, but with an optimized payroll plan. And then we look at your pricing and your offers to optimize your top line revenue. So we can get that down to maybe 30%. And then that gets down to 27%. And those little shifts of like, oh, Lauren's only 3%, but 3% might mean $50,000 a year annually in your business. And that's your, if you have kids, you can put your kids through a year of college at some colleges with that. So the little shifts really add up to big changes over the year, when you're looking at your finances from a lens of like, where are the opportunity areas that I have to make small incremental shifts.
Yeah. And just for people listening, like that includes if they're working within their gym or studio, they're paid to themselves.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And then just for like a barometer, for our studio owners that are S Corp, I don't know how much you go into that with your clients, but if you're an S Corp, meaning you pay yourself a W-2 rather than taking out owner distributions. And we really want to see owner benefits, meaning payroll, health insurance, SEP IRA, all of those to start at 5% of revenue. And then what we do is after every quarter, we look at how much excess cash flow has the business generated, and then we'll give you profit distributions based on excess cash flow. So your W-2 wages, and this is what we do in our owner pay roadmap, your W-2 wages will support all of your habits and your bills. And then the profit distributions will support your short and long-term savings and goals and investments.
Yeah. So in the shift of people getting from that in the beginning where they might, I mean, I know with a lot of studio owners, like they don't even know their numbers. It's just kind of like they're putting the sweat equity in to make it work, to get to a point where their payroll is in that 30% and they're paying themselves and they are able to take some profit distribution and they're aware of their numbers and they're now looking to sell to investors. Yeah, just like what I'm wondering, a few things is like, one is like, what is the likelihood of selling and in what kind of markets? Because I've seen so many, I mean, I've been in the yoga industry for 25 years and I've just seen so many studios go under because there's really not often with personality driven studios where like the people are really coming because of the owner and the owner's very much involved with the culture. When that person leaves, like the value of like the email list, the value of the props, the value of the lease, it's so easy for someone just to just like pick up a lease, buy a bunch of props on eBay and like get up and
For
running.
sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, just curious about that.
Yeah. And I think what you said specifically really hit a light bulb for me. In your example, the owner is the business. They are the personality. They are teaching all the classes. They are the personality in the email marketing. And that's exactly what we help owners get out of. We have to get out of you being the business because it is not sustainable for an entire business to be dedicated to, or what's the word? Dependent on one human and one person, whether that be you, the studio owner, or if you have one lead instructor who teaches half the classes and all of their classes are highly utilized, convert really well into memberships. That's also not really great because what happens if that person moves? Or what happens if that person realizes, oh my gosh, I'm the GOAT of this studio. I'm gonna go start my own studio.
Yeah.
So it's like really helping create what is the programming for your studio, no matter who teaches it, what is the foundation for the programming so the client experience is consistent across all instructors. I think that's really important to focus in on. And that goes beyond the scope of just finance and operations. It's really talent development, program development. What are you doing? What is that program that you feel is the best, gives the best results to your community? Getting you out of the owner operator seat, really focusing in on that EBITDA multiple. So what I mean by that is EBITDA is like net operating profit. So what is the profitability of inside the four walls of your studio? Not looking at depreciation, not looking at loan interest, just looking at studio operating expenses versus studio revenue. And how can we optimize that margin to hit that 30 to 40%? Because that is what will give you the best exit multiple. When we look at EBITDA, we want to get you between a 3 and 5x multiple on your EBITDA. And the way to do that is through optimizing the studio, programming, making sure the owner is out of the operator's seat. It has fluid systems. I like to say in my business that I, at some point, would love to be like not needed. Not because I don't care about the business, but because I want the business to run without me having to have a hold on everything that's going on, because that's not sustainable. For me as a CEO, that's going to lead to burnout. And then when you're burnt out, you really can't help the business or yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky. I could just see a lot of people just having questions on this because especially where if we look at social media, if we look at, like YouTube channels are personality driven, Instagram channels are personality driven. So it's like, oh wait, how do I give the studio the personality or the business the personality rather than the me or the core teachers or whatnot? It brings up a number of questions. I'm kind of curious, just men versus women. Like what I've seen in business, it's like men more, and I've been in wellness business for 2.5 decades, so not new. And I've also been in a lot of business programs with people who are growing companies. And I find like people who are growing companies very masculine driven, like people who are growing little wellness studios is very female driven. And they're not, I find with like the single studio owners or people that maybe have 2 locations is like, they're not even, they like that leap is too big, like the skill set, et cetera. It's like, well, that's not really why they got into it. It's not their main motivation is to exit. Like their main motivation is to be able to do the work that they love and
Yeah.
to create a little nest in their community that's like a
Yeah.
safe space for personal transformation and growth. And even like the language, the terminology that they use to describe their business is totally different. And like, and I'm just curious, do you see the same thing? Like as far as like the people that are really growing to scale or people that are having, more than 2 locations, is there a lot more men on that side, or do you find it like 50-50 split?
Yeah, it's a great question. We work with predominantly female business owners. We definitely have a maybe like 30 to 70% male to female in our clientele. And I think what you mentioned earlier is really important. I think it's less about male, female, and more about like the masculine energy versus the feminine energy. And this is something that I've been working on a lot in myself because coming from a finance background, working in finance in New York City, it is one of the most male dominated places to be. And because of that, I was living in my masculine energy for so long. And that did wonders for me in my career. I climbed the corporate ladder. I built this beautiful business. But at some point, really tapping into my feminine energy has what's helped me catapult my business. And so it's where can we turn on and turn off that masculine energy? When you're in growth mode in your business, having some of that masculine energy is probably really helpful. Really looking at the numbers, thinking of goals, how do we hit the goals? But then we also, because fitness is such a people business, the people are your business, the people are your product. And so being able to lead your team, if you're, male or female, with some of that softer feminine energy to really connect with them and help elevate them in your business. So I don't think it's an and or. I think it's how do we help our owners navigate between the two energies and know when to turn on and turn off the masculine or the feminine.
Uh, but I'm sorry, did you say it was like 70-30 men to women in terms of like growing multiple locations to sell? Or did I have that inverse?
Oh, if we look at the clients that we support, we
Yeah.
mostly support women. And then so I was just saying we probably about 70% women,
Okay.
30% male.
Okay. Got it. Yeah. That's interesting. It's like just cool to kind of see the similarities and
Yeah.
differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just brought on a couple new male coaches to our team. And so I'm curious to see how that will drive this male female distribution. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I know. And I would imagine it would change your website too, et cetera. Like if you're trying to attract more men, right? That's
Yeah.
like, yeah, men are definitely more attracted to male coaches and leaders. And that can be a barrier, and the reason I'm saying that is for people, if they're wondering if you're like a woman and a lot of your things are like very feminine facing, like it's going to be really hard to attract male clientele. And then big differences that you see between yoga studios and gyms in terms of like clientele, in terms of marketing budget, in terms of annual recurring revenue, or like more of like ARR, in terms of like high ticket upsells that are more based on like annual commitments.
And when you say gyms, are you talking about like big box, 24-hour crunch,
Whoever you're
Equinox?
working with, the gyms that you're working with, the gym owners.
Okay. Sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, so just the difference between yoga studios and gyms that you're working with, your clientele that
Okay.
are gym owners versus yoga studio owners, just some
Okay.
differences in terms of like just broad strokes in the business, in terms of marketing, in terms of profit margin based on upsells, just real differences between gyms and studios.
Okay. I'm going to first answer this from a different perspective. And I was just in Chicago at a fitness technology summit conference, and we were having this discussion a lot about what attributes make a successful studio. And where I landed with my viewpoint on this is that it actually, if we're talking just purely success from a profit standpoint, it doesn't matter what the modality is. It could be yoga, it could be cycling, it could be Legree, reformer, boxing, whatever it is. It's more about, is that studio owner able to step out of the operator seat into that visionary seat, hire a studio manager, hire somebody or multiple people on the team to lead the operations in the business so that studio owner can be the visionary to vision and grow whatever that means for that studio owner. So in terms of profit margins, I I think both cases can be very profitable. Now, if we just talk about the specifics, a yoga business has a lot less startup costs than a Legree studio, right? Yoga, yoga mats, yoga blocks, yoga props. Of course, that's some expense, but in comparison to a Legree or a reformer machine, are like night and day difference.
Yeah.
So, I think that's one thing to really keep in mind if you're thinking about, okay, what kind of modality do I want to open? Of course, Legree, Pilates reformer, you can charge a higher price, but you kind of have to help to offset the cost of the equipment and the loans that you probably had to take out for that. However, we do have some clients that have opened Pilates reformer studios, and they are profitable within the first couple months. So again, I think it's maybe less about what the modality is, and it's more about what is the plan and what is the foundations that you're setting up for your business to be successful. I think the modality is just, if you think about going on vacation, right? Like we're going to go to Hawaii. The plane just gets you there. Hawaii is a destination. So Legree, reformer, yoga, boxing, that's the plane. That's just the vehicle to get them from where they are now to where they want to be. It's just the mode of the vehicle. So I like to think it less about modality and more about like, who is the studio owner? How good are they at identifying what their zone of genius is, and ability to like be humble, ask for help, and get the support they need to reach whatever goals that they want.
Yeah. I get the important component of that is like, it looks really like the numbers look really different on paper, right? In terms of like overhead. Like I have there's a local, it's an EE scaler room, which these cost, I don't know, about like 100, we'll say like 100,000 of in equipment to put in. They're amazing. They're amazing. It all is based on energy, frequency, vibration. They're these healing rooms, right? And like the difference between starting that up and starting up a yoga studio are entirely different. And so then what is it, like, what does the risk from the owner look like? And then like what happens if they get in over their head, they can't pay their bills. It's like, and they try to sell, like, is there actually a market? And what is, like, how do these things actually like play out downstream? And often I find, and particularly on the spiritual side of the wellness industry, where people are, well, and it can often be in gyms too, where like people are getting in from their own passion, and then like they find a way often to over leverage themselves, right?
Yeah.
And
I think with some of these more unique business models in the wellness industry, I think because they are unique, you don't have a lot of competition. So that's really amazing. So I think I would look at how effective is their messaging to bring in the people that they're trying to bring in. There's also probably a huge education component that we have to educate the consumer on why doing this electrofrequency workout or why going in this salt room is important for their longevity and for their health and for recovery. So it really, I think, just depends what market they're in. If you put this in probably New York City, that's going to be a much easier conversion than putting it in a tier 3 or tier 4 suburban market in the middle of Alabama or something. So I think it's all, about like looking at your demographic, looking at the psychographic of your ideal consumer, and does that psychographic match with the community that you're putting yourself in? And if it doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. Maybe we just need to take a different approach into how are we going to source and community market to get leads into our business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just curious because like a lot of the people that we work with in Wellness Pro Academy, like they come in and they're pretty weak on high ticket sales and also on on like marketing in order to drive high ticket sales that
Hmm.
will actually give them the profit. Because if they're just operating transactionally, it's like more like a like service as commodity, right? Where they're easily displaced by competition or by just fluctuations in the market, or they're like that other example where they haven't really done a market analysis and might be like over invested on the
Hmm.
equipment side in order to make the thing work, or maybe their lease is really high, and if they don't do put the sweat equity in, they can't really get out of it from there.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious, like what you see on that side, especially with I know with fitness, it's and even with yoga studios, like it can be very like local meta ads, Facebook ads, Google ads driven, and how much people really need to learn in order to make ads effective, in order to get leads,
Hmm.
or what other ways that you're helping your studio owners get the kind of lead flow that they need to be able to have the kind of transactions or
Yeah,
uh,
great
yeah.
question. We don't do a lot on the ad side, but we have partners that if that's something the studio owner wants to dive into, we have preferred partners in the fitness industry to help out. But I like to think before we even go down the strategy of ads, what are we doing internally to be able to convert these leads? So we first like to look at some initial metrics. What are your how many intro offers? I'm sorry, how many first timers do you have? How many intro offers and how many new members? And looking at those conversion percentages will let us know where in the sales process is working or is not working. And before we go spend 3, 5, 7K a month on ads, I want to make sure your sales process is working before we have an influx of ads. So is your sales process working? And how is your like delivering your product, delivering your experience? I think those two things are the first things that need to be addressed before we look at ads. And while we are addressing those things, if those are opportunity areas in the business, we like to do some more grassroots community marketing to really get out in the community, talk to the people, bring them in, because talking to somebody and telling them about your studio is going to be so much more impactful than somebody seeing an ad on their Instagram or on their Google page. Like how many times do they have to see that ad before they're like, okay, fine, I'll go, you know? And so we like to really focus in on those areas first. And once those are dialed in, specifically the sales process, then I think is a good time for ads. But then
Yeah.
another complement to that is like, okay, what is the messaging that we're putting on the ad? And if the studio doesn't have authentic messaging that talks to their ideal client and shapes their studio in a more unique, authentic way, then the ad's not going to land either. So now we're just spending 5K a month on ads that are maybe giving you a lot of clicks, but not a lot of show rate.
Yeah. And so in terms of like who's going out in the community, is that the owner, or is that the staff, or is that someone in
Staff.
marketing, or
Yeah, I think it depends where the business is at. Like right now, I'm doing a lot of our version of community marketing. So I'm coming out on all these podcasts. I'm going to fitness conferences. I'm getting out and doing different wellness events in LA because like right now, my time is best spent on that top of funnel networking with potential clients to bring them in. Um, but that's just where I'm at right now. Hopefully, within a couple of years, when we build the team out more, maybe that's something that can be outsourced, or maybe not. Like maybe you're the owner, or like that is the most valuable way for you to spend your time, and that's totally fine. I don't think there is a right or a wrong way. What I do think is if you're doing the community marketing and you're teaching all the classes and you're doing the sales and you're doing the inbox, like that to me is like, oof, that's going to lead to burnout. That's not the best setup. But if you have your systems and you have your team organized and you know the best way for you as a visionary to drive business right now is you yourself getting out in the community, great, do it. But yes, if you're have somebody on the team, maybe it's a studio manager, maybe you're able to, you have an instructor who is amazing at connection and they want some extra hours in the business to drive leads. I also like to think of how can we give our team members more responsibility because it shows that we're investing in them, we're investing in their growth. The more that they can work in your business, the less they have to teach at 5 other studios to make their rent.
Yeah. One of the things that we've seen, particularly with yoga studios, is like their high ticket upsell is yoga teacher trainings. Like
Yeah.
that's where they often, and then they create a lot of competition for themselves, like downstream, which often backfires on them, like at least, sometimes 6 months, sometimes 2, 3 years downstream. And so one of the things that we help studios do is really create their signature program that's more for their members than and have that as their high ticket upsell rather
Hmm.
than the yoga teacher trainings. I'm curious if like what is there an equivalent on the gym side of that yoga teacher training that they're creating competition, or is that really just unique to the yoga community?
I'm seeing that a lot more in like the Legree and the Pilates reformer space. Um, to be Legree certified, you have to go through a very specific training. And we have a couple clients that have been in the Legree space for a very long time. So this Legree certification process is an extremely profitable business unit for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And specifically for this client that I'm thinking of, in 2026, we're going to help her craft how to do a Legree certification retreat hybrid. So it's giving the certification participant not only access to get certified, but how can you make it a whole, long weekend experience or 2 weekends, um, depending how long it goes. And I'm really excited to see how
But what
that
about the
goes.
part about creating your own competition? Like doing it, it's like it's such a great money fix in the short term, but in the long term, you're creating more competition in your local marketplace. Have you seen that? Because I've seen that across the world in
Oh,
yoga.
you mean create more competition because there's more
Because you're just
instructors?
certifying teachers, teachers, teachers. You're like literally creating competition to a small percentage of the market who's looking at either going much deeper because they want to self knowledge or because they are actually on a career path versus serving your like really figuring out like what is your niche and your niche within your existing population where you're helping people on their wellness journey, not on their
Hmm.
professional journey, and actually pack like really like wrapping your mind around, which will include market research and a lot of things that you've talked about in terms of
Yeah.
like understanding like what are their needs that you're not addressing and how do you create a high ticket offer around that that's not actually creating more competition but is actually giving you the authority of and the recognition within the community is like being the go-to person that whether like for example in Club Thrive like we're very good at weight loss like you know what I mean, but we're not teaching weight loss experts how to help other people or like
Right.
just guiding our members to being at
Yeah.
their optimal weight.
I think it's a yes and. I think
Mhm.
there's a path for both kind of offers. A
Yeah.
lot of the studios that we work with that do the YTT, it
Hmm.
really is a almost like backhand recruitment process for the studio to find really good, reputable instructors that come through their program. And then they can do an add on offer after that to do a mentorship to then learn the specific programming of that studio.
Yeah.
And so we're able to use the YTT to identify, okay, who are the 2 or 3 instructors that really resonate with our method, our community, and then how can we help guide them so they can teach for us. And I think doing it that way feels a much more like an abundant way where we're always going to have people who want to up level them. Like I'm going to get my YTT in 2026, not because I want to teach, just because I want to up level my practice and do
Yeah.
a bit more deep inner work. And so I'm looking forward to that. But my goal isn't to teach. Maybe I do. I have no idea. But I think looking at it from how can we use this as like a paid way to recruit?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
It's
sense for
like
some
the
studios.
lens
Yeah.
that I like to view it from.
Yeah, awesome, Lauren. Well, thanks so much for your time. Again, Lauren's website is activecoreconsulting.com. And you wanted to mention an upcoming workshop?
Yes, so we have our Finance and Flow group program that we start in the new year. We mentioned it a couple times throughout the program. We are hosting a workshop on November 10th for anybody that even piques an interest on like how can I step into my CEO? What are these foundations that I need in my business to be able to do that? So we have this free workshop on November 10th. The link will be in the show notes. I'll also include the sales page in case you're listening after the November 10th date. You can check out our program and see if it's something that you want to apply for.
Awesome. Yay. Well, it's been a pleasure.
It
And
was so nice chatting with you. Thank you so much.
yeah, you bet. And I just want to let our listeners know we have a workshop on November 12th about who are your people for 2026. So who do you need to be
Ooh,
masterminding with in
that's cool.
2026? Yeah. And that'll also be in the show notes, or you can just go to clubthrive.global to find out more about that. Awesome, Lauren. Take care.
Thank you so much.
All right, you guys. Hello, listeners. So I have created for the wellness pros out there who listen to this show, the Wellness Pro Launchpad, and I'll get you in for free. Just go to wellnesspro.academy /launchpad, LAUNCHPAD, Launchpad, and then just fill out the form and we'll get you right into this school classroom in here. And in the Launchpad, it's really cool. Like, you get to see yourself as the hero in the path of the wellness pro, and then your client's transformation and A to B, and your vibe and your brand, your investment story, and design the journey for your clients, patients, or students, and then how to price from results. So these lessons are super short. They're each about 10 minutes, and you'll have a reframe on how to launch and scale the next phase of your wellness career. So wellnesspro.academy /launchpad. And then and on the inside, if you really want to launch, you can, like, your next phase of growth as a wellness pro, then you can talk to me. See you soon.